Where do you think the front kick is aiming for, Charlie?
Yeah, probably not any place. Thank God I have kids, I'll put it to that.
He gets it. Well, self-defense and keeping yourself and your family and the people around you safe is a massive responsibility. And I think in our bubbled societies and our privileged lifestyles, we've forgotten that it is the #1 priority to stay alive, to stay safe.
Imagine being able to pick up a car and throw it at someone. You have to be able to be very careful with what you're doing. But it's a big responsibility, but something that I think every Jew on the planet should really be taking advantage of if they have access to it. And I just think that, if we are going to be outward Jews, we also have to know how to defend ourselves, because not everybody is going to be receptive to us. That's just the nature of the beast. So we have to know how to protect ourselves, and that's where you come in.
My name is Sammy and I'm here today with Charlie, my first subject for the self-defense Haganah Yahud, and we are here in the heart of Tel Aviv. And Charlie, tell me a little bit about yourself. Where are you from?
So originally I'm from Chicago. Currently I live in South Jersey in Cherry Hill. Right now I'm a clinical psychotherapist, but in order to ensure my mom is proud of me, I'm also a professional rapper. God knows how those things go together, but here we are. And yeah, man, something I've been really interested in self-defense for many, many years. I've had some very interesting experiences, and I'm just really excited to work with you.
We're going to teach the mindset. We're going to learn the physical technique and the idea of being aware of your surroundings, which is really important, being a visible Jew like yourself.
Absolutely.
A proud and visible Jew like yourself. We have to be able to, as Imi Lichtenfield said, the founder of Krav Maga said, we have to learn all of this to be able to walk in peace.
Absolutely.
And, that's the ultimate goal. So let's get started.
Let's do it.
Okay, Charlie, we're just going to start out with a really quick warm-up. You don't want to stretch before exercising. Common misconception. You want to warm up your joints, especially when you're going to be doing explosive movements like self-defense. So just give your shoulders a bit of a warm-up. Let's start with a quick exercise.
Yep.
It's called shoulder slaps. It's not a competition, is the important thing to start out by saying.
All right.
First of all, do you know what a fighting stance is?
Somewhat, yeah.
So you want to have even weight, 50-50 on both legs.
Yep.
Yeah. You want the ability to be able to fall back and to move forwards just as easily.
Okay.
And the important thing to note is in your fighting stance, you don't step like you're walking to move. In your fighting stance, you move like this. Can you see what I'm doing?
Yeah.
You're shuffling.
Yeah.
We're practicing our reaction times, our ability to move in, move out, etc. So what I would do is that, and that's one for me. So what we need to do, you're allowed to parry. So open hands for this exercise.
Okay.
Yeah, and you need to try and touch my shoulder. So that's one. Yeah.
Yep.
So now, but you can parry. So now I'm going to parry yours. I'm going to try and parry.
So when you're doing this, where do you keep your eyes?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Your eyes need to be center mass.
Center mass. Okay.
And this is a question for self-defense as well. My eyes are not in your eyes. The danger is not in your eyes. The danger is if I'm about to draw a weapon.
Yeah.
If I'm staring in your eyes, I'm missing this, right? The danger is center mass, because not only can you see when a shoulder moves back to throw a big punch, but you also see the hands.
Yeah.
So your focus is center mass always.
Cool.
Great question. Let's keep going.
When I was training, I did this for many years. I worked in inpatient psychiatric hospitals, multiple, in fact. And the thing is that they do actually require you to put hands on patients that are behaving in an aggressive or in a suicidal manner. So we do have to learn restraints. We practice those restraints all the time, because unfortunately, where I used to work, there was a lot of stuff. I was actually working in one of the worst behavioral health hospitals on the west side of Chicago. It was a very complicated place to be. The average staff turnover rate was about 3 months. I was there for 3 years. So I worked with every patient population, but that was a very big thing, gaining the confidence to be able to do it. I'm a short guy. I'm only 5'5". So for me to be able to get in there, put hands on people and do so confidently, and while simultaneously keeping the patient safe, that was a real skill that I had to master.
Amazing. I mean, it sounds like you've learned on the job without much formal training in that self-defense aspect. But I'm going to reassure you today that there are plenty, regardless of your size, there are plenty ways in which you can restrain someone without hurting them and without hurting yourself or risking it. Obviously, in that scenario, as a member of staff, you don't want to hurt them. You obviously don't want them to hurt you, but you are required to restrain them.
Absolutely.
Which is a good example for self-defense entirely. You don't necessarily want to hurt the other person. You just want to stay safe. So, how do you restrain someone while staying safe? Let's use the example that you're throwing this big haymaker punch at me, and I need to go from that position to restraining you without striking back. Yeah?
Okay.
First of all, it's always better to go in than out. especially with a weapon attack or one big strike. It's better to, if you see it soon enough, you go in, and that's how you restrain, of course.
For sure.
Because then you're just giving them another opportunity if you step out to step in. So if you were to throw a big haymaker with this hand, I'd step in like this. Big forearm block. You can use open hand or closed hand. The open hand gives you a bit more size, but it's for principle, having closed hands is preference. So do it again. So big open hand. Notice how I've lunged forward because all the power is here. Notice how if you push here, you've got a lot. Push down on my arm, you've got a lot of power. If you push here, there's nothing. Because you can't engage the chest muscle that way. So I beat you to it. I beat him to getting to the center mass. I beat him to the center, and I've struck at the same time with my palm. A basic palm strike, which we'll learn a bit more later. And there's a number of ways of restraining someone from here. The number one I like, especially in a standing position, is simply like this. So that doesn't really hurt, but it's uncomfortable, right? I can make it much more uncomfortable.
Absolutely.
But it's super simple. So it's
Again.
Peer. That's a strike, and it doesn't have to be a painful one. It could just be to knock their center of gravity off, right?
For sure.
I knock the center of gravity off, and I step in a little bit more, and bring my arm over the top, just like that. And as I'm over the top, I'm over his elbow joint, and I lock it into my elbow joint, and push his head away. So I'm in a position here where he could potentially strike me with that other hand, but I have he's not going to do any damage by doing so, and I have complete control of his body's positioning and his gravity. If I need to throw a knee strike, if I need to trip him up, or if I need to continue striking, I will. Now I want to see Charlie do it.
Oh boy. All right.
So, big haymaker swing punch.
But I have to
remember to strike at the same time.
So you basically have to
Good.
like this, come around.
Absolutely.
Where?
Lock it with your arm. So straighten that arm.
Straighten the arm. Okay.
Yeah, and push my head away.
And push your head away. Okay.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
Nice.
Very good. Yeah.
I want you to do that quicker. You got it first time.
Yeah. I like it. Alrighty.
So I'm going to swing. You need to lunge forward with that leg. So you're pushing with your back leg and lunging forward with your front.
So it's here.
Good.
And you know, one of the things that Sammy and I were talking about earlier that I think is very important to mention, you know, I pride myself on being a Chabadnik. You know, I am an observant Jew. And, you know, when I became religious when I was in college. And, you know, my mom to this day was always very afraid of me wearing kippah, having a beard, being outwardly Jewish, because she was very afraid about, God forbid, something happening to me. And I always say to Jews, you have to be proud of who you are, you have to be brave. And the idea is if, God forbid, the worst thing could happen to me, I would much rather me be wearing a yarmulke in that situation and me being a proud Jew than me trying to pretend to be something that I'm not. So I can't stress enough how important it is that we don't be ashamed of our identity, and that we you know what they say, they always say every yid needs a lid. Our relationship with God comes with strings attached. It's a really important thing to be proud of who we are. That's so important for our mental health, to be authentic.
Absolutely. I couldn't have said it better myself. One thing I must mention, just to go back to your earlier experience, my experience in teaching self-defense is pretty much entirely from a security lens. And when you're learning from a security lens, you can't just disengage once you've controlled the attacker. You have to keep control so that they can't get up and hurt other people. And that sounds like that's super relevant to your job. But we'll also learn a bit of the personal self-defense side where you create that window to escape. The de-escalating position with your hand is one of the most important things before the combat phase of self-defense, and it could help you avoid it entirely. So if Charlie over here is the threatening suspect, it hasn't yet got to a fight, but it might do. So we've already discussed the eyes need to be focused on center mass because that's where the danger is. I need to know when he's going to reach for something or throw something at me. And I need to be able to be in a position with my hands to react to it. So I might start by standing square on, but I want to put myself in a better position. So in a fighting stance that isn't so obvious, this is still a fighting stance. If it gets more aggressive, it becomes this. And of course, if we're fighting, I'm ready to fight. But I'm already ready to fight like this. But it looks de-escalating because it is. You're de-escalating, you're using your words at the same time, and you're doing this with your hands, which is de-escalating. So this is taught widely for security personnel because it's called a questioning stance, because you're questioning people. You have to be able to look in their eyes and look at their body at the same time. And sometimes when you're on a door as security, you don't have the luxury of distance. You want to have at least an arm's length away so that you can react to something. But having your hands here gives you the best ability to react if they reach for anything. Having your hands down here or in your pockets could be detrimental. So I'm going to be acting like a suspect. I might be reaching for something. I might have my hands in my hoodie.
Why are you so angry, man? What's going on? Or get it?
Notice the difference between that and then your hands down here.
Absolutely.
You're not going to be able to react so quickly.
Yeah.
So your hands are here, you're de-escalating.
Please, like, calm down, man. Like, everything.
Now I'm going to get more aggressive.
Yo, seriously, like, back up, okay? You know, you need to get in there.
Great.
There you go.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Charlie's just identified a real fundamental when it comes to defending against this untrained haymaker punch. And that is the telltale signs in the attacker's body before the punch is thrown. So I'm going to face the camera for a moment. Typically, when someone's untrained, it might be looking something like this. But what you'll notice is not only will naturally their stronger hand and their punching hand will go behind them, but their shoulder, just before the punch is thrown, will cock back, almost like they're pulling back a slingshot. So Charlie's going to see that on me because he's watching my center mass and not my beautiful eyes. He's going to see the center mass of change as I throw the punch. And before it's even launched at him, he knows what he's doing. And this strike is coming straight to the face. And this block has got a lot of power. But what I want to see him do is lunge even further forward so that my arm
right in there.
is taken out as early as possible.
It was especially since October 7th, unfortunately, the anti-Semitism in the United States is through the roof. And I always believe in being safe. That's a huge thing. So there is a lot of training, especially in New Jersey, in order to get that concealed carry license. There are tests that you have to complete. There are all different things that you have to learn. You have to be very well versed in the law. And shooting also is a skill that, you know, unfortunately, you lose it very quickly. It deteriorates quickly. So you have to constantly train in order to stay on top of your craft. So that's something I'm very passionate about. It's actually, imagine being able to pick up a car and throw it at someone. You have to be able to be very careful with what you're doing. But it's a big responsibility, but something that I think every Jew on the planet should really be taking advantage of if they have access to it.
Well, self-defense and keeping yourself and your family and the people around you safe is a massive responsibility. And I think in our bubbled societies and our privileged lifestyles, we've forgotten that it is the #1 priority to stay alive, to stay safe. And I've been talking about this across my platforms. This segment right here is for you Americans and Israelis, but mostly the Americans who are in the face of the Jew hatred in the diaspora. So Charlie, tell me where you hold your gun.
Usually on my right hip.
On your hip.
Yeah.
On your hip, on your front.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Either one.
What happens is, if I'm aggressive, I'm already over here. This is problematic. And you think I'm going to maybe draw for a knife?
Yeah.
In a self-defense scenario, you're going to have to wrap the arm up. You're going to have to strike, and you have to make sure that you have control of the arm. But he has the luxury of having a firearm. You don't bring a knife to a gunfight. Remember that.
Yeah.
So listen.
Yeah.
I'm here and I'm threatening. So you're already saying step back. You might even want to. You might even want to show them. You might even want to tell them.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what's really important is, if they start lunging at you, how can you ensure that you have enough distance to draw and shoot?
You have to back up.
Yeah. But you can't always back up, right?
Yeah.
So, first of all, I want to teach you the front kick. There are many variations of the front kick. I'm here to teach the snap kick. It's quick, it's effective, and it aims for the vulnerable spots. Vulnerable spots as targets is one of the #1 principles of self-defense. You can be 4'4", 6'4". You have the same vulnerable spots, and they act like switches in the same way. So, where do you think the front kick is aiming for, Charlie?
Yeah, probably not any place. Thank God I have kids. I'll put it to you that.
He gets it. So the front kick is really quick. I won't hit you.
Okay.
It's really quick. You lift your knee up to about a right angle and you flick the last end. It's that quick. No one should be able to see it coming, but it will create distance. Yeah. It will immobilize the attacker at least for long enough for you to make your escape, or for you to take that step back with the kick and draw successfully.
Absolutely.
So, I want you to start in your questioning stance. You're then going to escalate. The attacker gets more aggressive, shows that he wants to attack you, and may have a weapon. Escalate into your fighting stance and draw after the front kick. So one more time, starting in de-escalation stance, step back into fighting stance, immediate front kick to the vulnerable spot, draw and fire. Fantastic. Now full speed, you got this.
Yo. Calm down, man. Seriously, relax. Well.
Nice. So we've done the front kick. I want to show Charlie the knee strike. It's going to feel like a very similar movement, stepping back into a fighting stance and immediately throwing it. I call it the springboard. So it can look like a grip and then a knee, but it can also be without the grip and just straight away throwing the knee. Again, you're striking to the vulnerable spots. The beauty of this area is that there's lots of vulnerable spots. You obviously have the groin, but the stomach and the intestines are a real vulnerable spot, and they're a massive target. They are also the center of mass, so it's extremely difficult to miss. What you would do is, if we're starting in questioning stance, and Charlie's going to come at me, I might be like this. He continues coming at me. I've used this springboard I've just created, as I mentioned, the springboard. I'm on the ball of my foot, as you can see, and I come back and drive the knee. So I'm going to show you the technique of the knee from here. What I do is, first of all, is it comes up like you're drawing a sword diagonally and upwards. I'm curling, I'm pointing the foot, so I'm exposing the kneecap as much as I can. You just take a step back. And at the end of this strike, I extend my hip forward to get that last 2-3 inches and last bit of aggression. So at full speed, and I could use the grip as well. I don't want to hurt you.
Okay.
At full speed, I can use the grip as well. Because let's start like this, like that. It's going upwards diagonally, and I'm using the ground as a springboard. I'm not climbing steps, and I'm closing my leg, chambering my leg as much as I can to expose the hard kneecap. One more time. You have to implement all of it, but you have to train, and you have to know these fundamentals in the first place to give you the self-confidence and the peace of mind in the moment to implement and to fight back. Peace through strength. Follow for more.